Aung San Suu Kyi was born on June 19, 1945 in Yangon, Myanmar. Her father was famous Myanmar General Aung San. After studying at Rangoon University, he became deputy chairman of Burma's Executive Council in 1946. At the time, Myanmar was under British rule, but in February 1947, General Aung San signed an agreement with the British Prime Minister that promised to give Myanmar independence in 1 year. In 1948, Myanmar gained its independence, and many viewed Aung San as the founder of the country. However, in 1947, when his party became the Constitutional Assembly in Burma, he and 6 others were assassinated during a council meeting. This was devastating for Aung San Suu Kyi, and many people in Myanmar turned their eyes to her as the daughter of the founder of their country. However, Aung San Suu Kyi did not stay in Myanmar after his death, as she went to live with her mother in India because her mother became the ambassador of India in 1960. She attended high school in India and went to the University of Oxford, where she studied economics, philosophy, and politics. In 1988, when she returned to Myanmar, she witnessed the horrors occurring due to Ne Win. He led a successful coup d'état and took over the government and became a ruthless dictator. She spoke out against him, introducing ideas such as democracy and human rights. In July 1989, his military government put Suu Kyi under house arrest because she spoke out against his leadership. Although she was under house arrest for 15 years, she was awarded many awards for speaking up for democracy. In 1991, she won the Nobel Peace Prize, and in 2012, she won the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's Elie Wiesel Award. She was finally released from house arrest in 2010. In January 2012, she ran for a seat in Parliament and won. Aung San Suu Kyi created the position of state councillor because she couldn't become president, and she took over the position. Hitin Kya, the current president of Myanmar, does listen to what she has to say, but the military still has more power than both of them combined. Right when she became state councillor, her government began to look more closely at the attacks on the Rohingya Muslims in Rakhine. The Rohingya are an ethnic minority living in Rakhine State in Myanmar. The Rohingya are descendants from Arab and Persian traders who came to Myanmar centuries ago. They are mostly Muslim, but are living in a country that is predominantly Buddhist. The government of Myanmar views the Rohingya as illegal immigrants, as they practice another religion and speak a different language. In 1948, the government created the Union Citizenship Act of Burma, which outlined all the ethnic groups in Myanmar and granted them citizenship. However, the Rohingya were left out and ever since have been subjected to violence and discrimination by the government and the citizens of Myanmar. The number of attacks on the Rohingya began to increase, but Suu Kyi was not doing anything about it. The public began to become increasingly worried as thousands of Rohingya fled to Bangladesh to escape the violent Buddhist military and citizens in Myanmar. These Rohingya have been persecuted for over 8 decades. Their human rights struggle has been compared to the apartheid in South Africa. Anna Neistat, the senior director of research at Amnesty International, has reported that the Myanmar authorities are keeping Rohingya women, men, and children segregated and cowed in a dehumanizing system. In South Africa, the black population faced similar persecution. However, they were able to overcome this with the leadership of Nelson Mandela. Aung San Suu Kyi is in the same position to help her people, but continues to stay silent on the issue. Although Aung San Suu Kyi was admired for speaking out against the ruthless dictatorship of Ne Win, she morally failed her country when she didn't do anything to help the Rohingya. Aung San Suu Kyi has not been open to discussing the Rohingya crisis. In December 2016, she was asked about the difficulties in Myanmar and why she has not done anything to help the thousands of Rohingya fleeing persecution. She told Singapore's Channel News Asia that,
"I'm not saying there are no difficulties, but it helps if people recognize the difficulty and are more focused on resolving these difficulties rather than exaggerating them so that everything seems worse than it really is."
She fails to even mention the violence and discrimination against Rohingya and does not offer any solution to the problem. In September 2017, the United Nations Security Council planned to meet with Suu Kyi to discuss the ethnic cleansing in Myanmar. Aung San Suu Kyi was expected to be at this discussion, but ended up not going. Aung Shin, a government spokesman for Myanmar, said she had more pressing matters to deal with. When she does comment, she talks minimally about the crisis and claims that people are exaggerating the violence occurring. In another interview with BBC News, she claimed that
ethnic cleansing is too strong an expression to use for what's happening.
Suu Kyi has also never used the word Rohingya when asked about the crisis, which has caused her to be accused of dehumanization. Many countries, including the United States, are accusing Aung San Suu Kyi and her government of ethnic cleansing as well. People in countries all over the world are putting pressure on Myanmar and Suu Kyi to stop the ethnic violence. Although she denies these claims and says that everyone in Myanmar is given education and healthcare without discrimination, she has no facts to back her point up, as thousands of Rohingya have fled to neighboring Asian countries because of the ethnic violence and discrimination. On November 15, 2017, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visited Myanmar and spoke with Suu Kyi. After visiting Myanmar and seeing the suffering of Rohingya people, he accused Suu Kyi of ethnic cleansing. He stated that no provocation, can justify the horrendous atrocities that have ensued. These abuses by some among the Burmese military, security forces, and local vigilance have caused tremendous suffering. It is clear that the situation in northern Rakhine State constitutes ethnic cleansing against the Rohingya. Aung San Suu Kyi continues to deny what is happening. In November 2017, Pope Francis visited Myanmar, but had a different response than Tillerson. Many thought he would speak out about the ethnic cleansing in Myanmar, just as the United States and United Nations did. Pope Francis never mentioned the Rohingya crisis and only spoke broadly of the future in Myanmar. He said the future in Myanmar must be peace, a peace based on respect for the dignity and rights of each member of society. Aung San Suu Kyi has never shown any sympathy for the Rohingya, therefore doesn't provide any ideas to improve their situation, even though she is in a position of power. While her party was running in the election in 2015, she never spoke about the violence in the Rakhine State, and if her party wanted to talk about it, she told them beforehand not to exaggerate the crisis. She also does not view the Rohingya as Burmese people. A majority of the government, military, and citizens of Myanmar view the Rohingya as outsiders or Bengalis, since the Rohingya were not originally a part of Burma. In 2017, Suu Kyi asked the United States ambassador not to call these people Rohingya, which shows that Aung San Suu Kyi may view the Rohingya as outsiders too, and not real citizens of their country. Aung San Suu Kyi is limited to what she can say due to the fact that she doesn't have a lot of power in the government, and because of the pressure from other countries. She does not want to look weak in a position as state councillor. A major reason is because she does not think it is her duty to end the violence. Myanmar's constitution gives the military a large role in the government. The primarily Buddhist military is anti-Rohingya. If Suu Kyi were to support the Rohingya and go against the military, her government could get overthrown. She experienced this firsthand when she spoke out against Ne Win and was put under house arrest for 15 years. The military has more power, and she thinks it's their job to end the violence. There is also a growing group of Buddhist nationalists in Myanmar. This group is called the 969 movement, based mostly in Myanmar, which is opposed to the expansion of Islam. The numbers 969 represent Buddhist practices. The International Crisis Group says that these Buddhist nationalist groups offer a sense of belonging for hundreds of young Buddhists, though they are highly against any person who is Islamic. Warathu is one of the Buddhist monks who support the 969 movement. In an interview with The Guardian, he said, "We are being raped, being sexually harassed, being ganged up on, and bullied. In every town there is a crude and savage Muslim majority." This, however, has proven to be false, because 90% of the population is Theravada Buddhist, and only 4% is Islam. Although Aung San Suu Kyi does not depend on the support of this group, she does not want the extreme Buddhist nationalists to view her as soft on the Rohingya. Using her own words from her Freedom from Fear speech from 1990, "It is not power that corrupts, but fear." Although Aung San Suu Kyi doesn't want to risk being thrown out of office, she doesn't want to look weak while governing her country. Virgil Keane, a man who has spent most of his life documenting on Suu Kyi, said that Vijay Nambiar, the United Nations representative to Myanmar, encouraged Suu Kyi to visit the Rakhine State where hundreds of Rohingya live, to witness the conditions and treatment they are living under. She refused because she did not want to look weak or be seen following the orders of another government. If she looked weak, it would make it easier for her opposers to riot against her or create a reason why she should be thrown out of office. Suu Kyi doesn't listen to outside advice, which causes her to overlook the violence. Because of the lack of action taken by Suu Kyi, many other countries and human rights organizations have stepped in to give aid to the Rohingya people, though others are more hesitant due to her lack of communication on the subject. Over 700,000 Rohingya refugees have crossed from Myanmar to Bangladesh to escape the discrimination they faced in their home country. Thousands of people live in small tents spread across Bangladesh. The World Health Organization has recorded over 300 deaths in Bangladesh refugee camps, the major cause being pneumonia and diphtheria among children, which makes up 40% of those deaths. In addition, the poor hygiene and lack of sanitation have caused there to be an increased chance for women to have complications during birth. They also have a shortage of water and food, as over half the Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh are not nourished properly. The United Nations have made many efforts to help the Rohingya. The UN has requested $951 million in immediate relief funds and have appealed for sanctions to be put on Myanmar, though none have been put into place. In addition, along with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the United States, have issued standard condemnations on Myanmar, saying that the situation in the Rakhine State is a clear case of ethnic cleansing. The Secretary General of the OIC, Yusuf bin Ahmed Al Othaymin, described their goal was to mobilize and coordinate international political support for accountability for human rights violations against the Rohingya community, though they have not found any success in trying to persuade the government of Myanmar. Similarly, in Indonesia, a primarily Muslim country, has also sent a foreign minister to talk to the government. In addition, countries such as the United States and Canada have given donations in an effort to improve the living conditions for the Rohingya. Other countries, such as the United Kingdom, have sent medics in an effort to stop the spread of diseases in the camps in Bangladesh. However, many other countries are against giving aid to the Rohingya, without a clear statement from or against the government of Myanmar. This gives them an excuse not to help and are able to turn the blind eye to the people in need. Many of the countries in the Association of Southeast Asian Nations are not willing to support the Rohingya and fear that Myanmar, who is also part of the ASEAN, will see this as betrayal. In addition, both China, Saudi Arabia, and India do not want to help the refugees. China has avoided any attempts to try and get involved in the situation and is unwilling to send anything to help the Rohingya. Saudi Arabia, though a mostly Muslim country, has been silent on the situation, which is most likely due to the fact that the oil pipeline, which is their greatest source of income, is protected by the Myanmarese government. India plans to deport about 40,000 Rohingya that traveled there to seek refuge. Aung San Suu Kyi, a Nobel Prize winner and state councilor of Myanmar, has morally failed her country as she has spoken minimally about the Rohingya crisis and has been downplaying the violence committed in Myanmar, which has caused other countries to criticize her and offer their own aid, and makes it harder for Myanmar to find a solution to the ongoing crisis.